I've been married to my husband Alex for 8 years. We have 2 kids together. Last week, my world came crashing down in the most unexpected way, and I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. It's long, but I need to get it all out. Writing has always been therapeutic for me, and right now, I need all the therapy I can get. I've been on this subreddit for years, but never thought I'd be posting my own story here. For context, Alex works in medical device sales. His job requires him to travel about once a month for 3 to 4 days at a time to visit clients and attend conferences. He's been with the same company for over a decade and has always been passionate about his work. We've always had what I thought was a good marriage. Not perfect, but solid. Alex is attentive, remembers birthdays and anniversaries, and often brings home little surprises for me and the kids. He's a hands-on dad who coaches Noah's t-ball team and never misses Emma's dance recitals when he's in town. He helps around the house without being asked, and we rarely fight about anything serious. At least, that's what I thought. Our friends often comment on how well we work together. Relationship goals, my best friend Tara always says. If only she knew. Alex's sister Jenna has always been close to our family. She's single, lives about an hour away in Westfield, and comes over for dinner almost every Sunday. She's a high school art teacher with a quirky sense of humor who brings the kids cool craft projects and always has the best stories about her students. I've always considered her a friend as much as a sister-in-law. We go shopping together, have wine nights when Alex is traveling, and she's been my confidant through parenting struggles and marriage rough patches. "You hit the jackpot with the Peterson family," she told me once years ago. "We're loyal to a fault." The irony of that statement isn't lost on me now. Last Sunday started like any other. The weather was perfect, warm enough for the kids to play outside, but not so hot that we needed the AC. I made Alex's favorite pot roast since he was coming back from a business trip the next day. He always appreciated home-cooked meals after days of restaurant food. Jenna arrived around 4 with a bottle of wine and a new board game for the kids. Dinner was normal. We talked about work, local gossip, the upcoming school year. The kids were excited about their upcoming summer camp, and I remember thinking how lucky I was to have this warm, loving family. After dinner, the kids ran out to play in the yard. Emma was showing Noah how to do cartwheels, though his version was more of a sideways tumble. Jenna and I were in the kitchen cleaning up, sipping the last of the wine, and chatting about nothing important. I mentioned how Alex's trip schedule had been busier lately, with more overnight stays. This had been bothering me a little. He'd been gone 6 times in the last 2 months, compared to the usual once-monthly trip. "I miss him when he's gone," I admitted, rinsing a plate. "And it's exhausting being a solo parent. Last week, Noah had a nightmare every night Alex was away." I expected sympathy, maybe some encouragement. Instead, Jenna said something that made my blood run cold. "That's weird," she said, loading a plate into the dishwasher, her back to me. "I thought he cut back on Chicago after the new regional manager took over that territory." I froze, the water still running over my hands. "What do you mean? He's in Chicago right now." Jenna's face changed immediately, like someone had flipped a switch. The color drained from her cheeks and she fumbled with the glass she was drying, nearly dropping it. "Oh, I must have misremembered," she stammered, suddenly very interested in arranging the silverware in the drawer. Maybe it was Detroit he cut back on, or Dallas. I don't know. My brain is fried from end-of-year grading. But her voice had that high-pitched quality people get when they're lying, and she wouldn't meet my eyes. In 8 years of friendship, I'd never seen Jenna nervous around me. "Jenna," I said, turning off the water and drying my hands. "What's going on?" "Nothing. I just misspoke. You know how I mix things up." She attempted a laugh that sounded more like a croak. "You're a terrible liar," I said quietly. "Always have been." She exhaled heavily and finally looked at me. The guilt in her eyes confirmed my growing suspicion before she said a word. "It's probably nothing," she said. "He mentioned a month or 2 ago that they hired someone local for the Chicago territory, so he wouldn't need to go there as often. Maybe it fell through, or maybe he's covering for the new person. I really don't know the details." My mind was racing, trying to make sense of this. But he's been going to Chicago more often, not less. Jenna shrugged uncomfortably. "Maybe I misunderstood. Can we drop it? Please?" I wanted to push further, but Emma came running in with skinned knees from a cartwheel gone wrong, and the moment passed. For the rest of the evening, Jenna was off, checking her phone constantly, leaving earlier than usual with a flimsy excuse about grading papers. I somehow managed to keep it together until she left, not wanting to cause a scene in front of the kids. I read them extra bedtime stories, sang all the lullabies, and checked under the bed for monsters twice. I needed their world to stay intact for as long as possible, even as mine was beginning to crumble. Once they were asleep, I poured myself a large glass of wine and went to Alex's home office. His laptop was there. He had a separate work computer he took on trips, but kept his personal one at home. I knew his password. He'd given it to me years ago for emergencies and never changed it. Until that night, I'd never had a reason to use it. In our 8 years together, I'd never once snooped through his things. We'd always prided ourselves on our trust, but Jenna's slip and sudden panic had planted a seed of doubt that I couldn't ignore. His browser history had been cleared recently, unusual for Alex, who typically didn't bother with such things. But he'd forgotten about the password manager. It autofilled an email address I'd never seen before when I opened Gmail, alexp.personal@gmail.com. Our shared email was alexandkatepeterson@gmail.com, and his work email was apeterson@medtechsales.com. This was something new. I logged in, my hands shaking so badly I had to type the password twice. What I found made me physically sick. There were hotel reservations, but not in Chicago, in Greenville, a town about an hour away in the opposite direction. There were restaurant reservations, movie tickets, even booking confirmations for a weekend getaway to a vineyard last month when he was supposedly at a sales retreat in Minneapolis. And then there were the emails between him and someone named Megan, going back almost a year. The earliest ones were professional. She worked at Greenville Memorial as a pharmaceutical rep, and they'd apparently met at a healthcare conference. They discussed meeting for coffee to talk about cross-promotional opportunities. But by the third or fourth email, the tone had shifted. Inside jokes appeared, coffee became dinner, professional language gave way to personal questions. "How was your weekend?" turned into, "I can't stop thinking about our conversation." By 3 months in, they were clearly romantically involved. Some emails were innocent enough on the surface, but the subtext was unmistakable. Others were explicitly romantic and contained details I wish I could erase from my brain, intimate discussions of their feelings for each other, recollections of time spent together, plans for their next rendezvous. There were also photos they'd sent each other. Nothing explicit, but definitely intimate. Selfies in bed, a picture of them with their arms around each other in front of a waterfall. Weekend trips they'd taken together, plans they were making for the future. "I wish we didn't have to sneak around," she wrote in one email from 4 months ago. "I want to walk down the street holding your hand without constantly looking over my shoulder." "Someday," he'd replied. "I just need time to figure things out. You know this is complicated." I read email after email, my heart breaking more with each one. There were over 200 exchanges. This wasn't a fling or a one-time mistake. This was a full-blown relationship, conducted right under my nose for months. It gets worse. From the emails, I figured out that Megan worked at one of the hospitals Alex's company supplied. They'd met at a real conference about a year ago. But Alex had been using his business trips to spend time with her, sometimes for days at a time. What killed me was how meticulously he'd maintained his lies. There were emails where they discussed their cover stories. He'd tell her exactly what lie he'd told me so they could keep their stories straight. In one exchange, he reminded her not to post anything on social media during their weekend in Asheville because Kate follows your Instagram now. The most recent email had been sent just yesterday. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. These trips without you are getting harder. Miss falling asleep next to you?" I spent the whole night alternating between crying and throwing up. I couldn't believe this was happening. Alex had never given me any reason to doubt him before. He always called when he was away, usually right around the kids' bedtime so he could wish them goodnight. He'd FaceTime with them, asking about their day, reminding them to brush their teeth. He'd even call me back afterward just to check in, tell me he missed me. He always brought back little souvenirs from the cities he supposedly visited. Chicago keychains, Minneapolis snow globes, Dallas magnets, all props in an elaborate performance designed to maintain his perfect husband image while he built a separate life with someone else. I went back through our text history looking for clues I might have missed. The messages were so normal, so convincingly routine. "In meetings all day, we'll call tonight. Dinner with the regional team? Boring shop talk. Miss you guys, can't wait to get home." How many of those texts had he sent while lying next to her? How many goodnight love you messages came after he'd just been with her? Around 3 a.m., after reading every email, I found myself searching through our family photos from the past year. Christmas morning with the kids, Emma's birthday party, our anniversary dinner. In every picture, Alex looked happy, engaged, present. There was a family beach trip from just 2 months ago where we'd built sandcastles with the kids and watched the sunset with our arms around each other. Had that been real? Or was he just going through the motions, counting the days until his next business trip? The next morning, I moved through my routine like a zombie, made breakfast for the kids, packed Emma's lunch, put Noah in his favorite dinosaur shirt, smiled and nodded at their chatter. Inside, I felt hollow. I called my mom and asked if she could watch the kids for the afternoon, making up an excuse about a dentist appointment. She didn't question it, just said she'd be over by noon. When she arrived, I drove to the address I'd found in one of the emails. It was an apartment complex called Greenville Heights, modern, with a fountain in front and manicured grounds. According to their emails, Megan had moved in 3 months ago. Alex had helped her pick it out because it was private and had good security. I parked across the street, not even sure what I was doing there. Part of me wanted to storm up to her apartment and confront them. Another part wanted to drive away and pretend I'd never seen those emails, never heard Jenna's slip. But I couldn't unknow what I knew. So I sat there for hours, alternating between crying and feeling completely numb. I watched residents come and go. Around 4 p.m., movement near the entrance caught my eye. And there they were, Alex and a tall woman with wavy red hair walking together toward the building. They were holding hands, laughing about something. He was carrying an overnight bag, the same one he takes on his business trips. The navy blue I'd given him for his birthday 3 years ago. I could have honked my horn, could have jumped out of the car and created the scene this betrayal deserved. But something stopped me. Maybe I was in shock, or maybe I just didn't want to fall apart in a strange parking lot. So I started my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel, and drove home. I picked up the kids from my mom's, declining her invitation to stay for dinner. I needed the comfort of my own space, needed to tuck my children into their beds and remind myself that parts of my life were still real and solid. When Alex came home that evening around 7:30, he acted completely normal. Kissed me hello as if he hadn't just spent the afternoon with another woman. Asked about my day as if he cared. Played with the kids before bedtime. He even brought them Chicago keychains as souvenirs. Chicago keychains from a city he hadn't been to. Watching him present these trinkets with elaborate stories about finding them in a special shop near the hotel made me realize what a practiced liar he'd become. "And I got something for you too," he told me, pulling out a small box of fancy chocolates. "From that place you liked when we visited a few years ago." I thanked him, wondering if he'd picked them up at the airport or if Megan had helped him select them. I somehow got through the evening without breaking down, without screaming or throwing things. But I couldn't sleep next to him. Couldn't bear the thought of his hands on me when they'd been on her just hours before. I made an excuse about not feeling well and slept on the couch, claiming I didn't want to disturb him with my tossing and turning. "I'll check on you in the night," he said, looking concerned. So attentive, so caring. "Don't bother," I replied. "I just need to sleep it off." I didn't sleep at all. I lay awake replaying every moment of our marriage, wondering how many other lies there had been, wondering how I could have been so blind. The next day after he left for work, was he really going to work or meeting her again? I called Jenna. I needed answers, and she clearly knew more than she'd admitted. "Can you come over?" I asked. "We need to talk." "I'm teaching until 3, she said. "Is everything okay?" "No," I replied simply. "Nothing is okay." She arrived at 3:30, looking anxious. The moment I closed the door behind her, I broke down, telling her everything I'd discovered, the emails, the apartment, seeing them together. At first, she seemed genuinely shocked by the extent of it, but as I continued talking, her expression shifted from surprise to guilt. "You knew, didn't you?" I finally asked. "That's why you made that comment about Chicago." She collapsed onto a chair, her face in her hands. "I didn't know for sure," she said, voice muffled. "I suspected. I saw his car at a restaurant in Greenville a few months ago when he was supposed to be in Dallas. He was with a redhead. I only caught a glimpse as I drove by, but it looked intimate." "And you didn't tell me?" My voice was barely a whisper. "I confronted him about it," she said, finally looking up at me. "He swore it was a work colleague, that they were discussing a big account. He seemed so sincere, Kate. He's my brother." I wanted to believe him. "But you didn't. Not really," I pressed. "Otherwise, you wouldn't have made that slip about Chicago." She nodded miserably. "I've been carrying this suspicion around for months. It's been eating at me. When you mentioned about his travel, something just snapped. Maybe subconsciously I wanted you to know." "I never would have thought he'd do something like this," she kept saying. "I always thought he was the good one in our family. After watching our dad's affairs destroy our mom, Alex always said he'd never be that man. I'm so sorry, Kate. I should have told you my suspicions." What hurt almost as much as the affair was realizing that I didn't know who to trust anymore. Had Jenna really not known more than she was admitting? Had others in his family suspected? His parents? His brother Mark, who we went on family vacations with? Was I the only one who had been completely in the dark, the last to know that my marriage was a sham? After Jenna left, I spent hours contemplating my next move. Part of me wanted to pack up the kids and disappear, let him come home to an empty house, but they deserved better than that. We'd built a life here. Emma had her friends and her dance class. Noah was finally settling into preschool after a rough start. I wouldn't uproot them without a plan. I decided to confront Alex that evening. I arranged for the kids to have an early dinner, then put them to bed by 7:30, telling them Daddy would be home late. I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine I couldn't drink, his laptop open to the email account, and waited. He came home around 8, whistling as he came through the door. The sound made my stomach clench. How dare he be happy? "Hey," he called out. "Sorry I'm late. Budget meeting ran long. Kids already in bed?" "Yes," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. "Come into the kitchen. We need to talk." He appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes, tie loosened. For a moment, he looked like my Alex, the man I'd married, the father of my children. Then he saw his laptop on the table, open to the email account. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know. First shock, his eyes widening, mouth slightly open, then guilt, a flush spreading across his cheeks, shoulders slumping. Then this awful resignation, like he'd been expecting this moment for a long time. "Kate," he said, my name barely audible. If you say you can explain, I will throw this laptop at your head," I interrupted, still eerily calm. "There is no explanation that will make this okay." He sank into the chair across from me, looking deflated. His composed, confident facade, the one I now realized he'd been hiding behind for months, crumbled completely. "How long?" I asked. He couldn't even look at me, staring instead at his hands on the table. "A little over a year." "Do you love her?" He hesitated, which was an answer itself. "I don't know what I feel anymore." Those words cut deeper than anything else. Not a denial, not even the decency to lie and say it was just physical. He had actual feelings for this woman, feelings strong enough to risk our family, our life together. We talked. Or rather, I asked questions, and he answered them. For hours. I needed to understand the full extent of his betrayal. He admitted the affair had started at a healthcare conference in Atlanta. They'd met at a networking event, exchanged business cards, professional at first, then coffee to discuss potential collaboration between their companies. But he'd been attracted to her immediately. Her intelligence, her ambition, her sense of humor. "She was just supposed to be a contact," he said, "then a friend. I didn't mean for it to become what it became." He claimed he'd tried to end it multiple times but couldn't. That he'd get close to breaking it off, then cave when she called or texted. He insisted he loved me and the kids, that he never wanted to hurt us, that he'd been living with crushing guilt. All the classic lines from the cheater's handbook. "She knew you were married?" I asked. "Yes." "With children?" "Yes." He swallowed hard. "She's met them, actually." The room seemed to tilt. "What?" "Once. By accident. We were at the park in Greenville, and you had taken Emma to that birthday party at the trampoline place. You dropped Noah off with me for a few hours because he wasn't invited, remember? Megan and I were having lunch, and you texted that you were running late. So she stayed. Pushed him on the swings." I felt sick imagining this woman, my husband's lover, pushing my son on the swings, taking part in a family moment that wasn't hers to share. "Who else knows?" I asked, changing topics before the image could fully form in my mind. "Does your whole family know I'm an idiot who doesn't know what her husband is really doing?" "No one knows," he said quickly. "Not even Jenna. I've been careful." "Jenna saw you with her at a restaurant months ago," I countered. "She confronted you and you lied to her face." He paled. "She told you that?" "Yes. Seems I'm the last to know what's happening in my own marriage." "Kate, I swear, no one else knows. Not my parents, not Mark, not our friends. Jenna suspected, but I convinced her she was wrong." But I didn't believe him anymore. How could I? Everything he'd told me for the past year had been a lie. Each, "I love you," each, "I miss you," each story about his business trips, all carefully constructed falsehoods designed to maintain his double life. I kicked him out that night. He didn't fight it, just nodded like he'd been expecting it. When he went upstairs to pack a bag, I followed to make sure he didn't wake the kids. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed, watching him gather his stuff. "Where will you go?" I asked, not because I cared about his comfort, but because I needed to know for the kids' sake. "Probably Mark's, at least tonight." He hesitated, then asked, "What will you tell Emma and Noah?" "I don't know yet. That's something we'll need to figure out together tomorrow. For now, just that you had to go away for work again." Another lie to add to the pile, but a necessary one until we could talk to them properly. He paused at the door, looking back at our room. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am." "Just go," I replied, too exhausted for more conversation. The next few days were a blur. I told my parents and my closest friend Tara what had happened, needing some support. Mom came over daily, helping with the kids while shooting daggers at any mention of Alex's name. Dad offered to have a talk with him, which I declined. Tara brought over wine and ice cream and let me rant for hours. I tried to keep things as normal as possible for the kids, but Emma is perceptive beyond her years. She kept asking when Daddy was coming home. "He's still traveling for work, sweetie," I'd say, hating myself for continuing his lies. Alex moved in with his friend Mark and started coming by to see the kids every other day. We barely spoke beyond logistics. I started telling people what had happened. My friends, some neighbors, the parents of Emma's friends who'd been asking why Alex wasn't around. It felt awful to say the words out loud, but also liberating. I was done keeping his secrets. 3 weeks after discovering everything, I agreed to meet Alex to discuss our future. He looked terrible, unshaven, and exhausted. Part of me was glad to see him suffering, but another part still ached for the man I thought I'd married. He told me he'd ended things with Megan for good, that he was in therapy, that he would do anything to save our marriage. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," he said, his eyes red. "I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you and the kids if you'll let me." I didn't respond right away. I'd spent weeks thinking about what I wanted, what was best for me and the kids. The pain was still raw, but I also couldn't imagine our family being permanently broken. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again," I told him honestly, "but I'm willing to try couples counseling. For now, you're staying at Mark's. We'll take it day by day." It's been 2 months since that conversation. We've been in intensive therapy, both individually and together. Alex has been completely transparent, sharing his location, his emails, his phone. He's transferred to a different division at work that doesn't require travel. He's doing everything right. Jenna has reached out multiple times, but I'm not ready to forgive her yet. Maybe someday, but not now. I still don't know if my marriage will survive this. Some days when Alex is playing with the kids or we manage to have a normal conversation, I think maybe we can rebuild. Other days, when something triggers a memory of his betrayal, it feels impossible. The hardest part isn't even the affair itself. It's the realization that the person I trusted most in the world was capable of lying to me so completely, for so long. How do you come back from that? I don't have an answer yet. I'm taking it one day at a time, trying to make decisions based on what's best for me and my children, not out of anger or fear. If there's one thing I've learned from this nightmare, it's that you never really know someone completely. People can surprise you in the worst possible ways. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. Whatever happens with Alex, I know I'll be okay. For now, we're in this strange limbo, not fully together, not fully apart. I don't know where we'll end up, but I'm trying to focus on healing regardless of the outcome.